here for Bottle Rocket News. Today we're talking about something new and exciting coming out of the Apple ecosystem, app clips. So Kim, why don't you tell us, what is an app clip?
An app clip, the way I would describe it, is basically a tiny portion of a full app. And they're kind of specifically for completing a task quickly. Any type of task quickly. Yeah.
So Lee, what would some examples of tasks that you could complete quickly using an app clip be?
So what Apple's trying to do is they're putting something out there that lets people do stuff that is short and sweet. So transactions, very small pieces of wayfinding, unlocking a thing, gaining access to a thing, using one small feature of an item that exists in physical space. It's all just stuff that you want people to be able to do that used to they had to go to the App Store, download a thing, and then find that feature specifically in the app that they downloaded. What Apple's done is just kind of sliced out all that additional nonsense and just giving you a way to access the functionality of the object in space or to conduct a transaction without the overhead of going to the App Store and making a download.
So how does one find their way into an app clip?
You can stumble upon it through many paths. They've hooked it up to their maps. They have created a proprietary object called a clip code, which combines the beauty of NFC and QR codes. So you can either point your device's camera at them or tap your device against it. Let me see. I'm going to miss something. You can send it through an iChat. You can send it through a Safari web page.
It's like a deep link, right? You could put it in all your corporate emails if you wanted to.
I think
app clips are about a space, and they are a unique routing mechanism. You can't directly put one of these URLs in your corporate email, but you could link to a web page that had an app clip experience URL in it.
Interesting.
So it is one step removed, and that has to do with their authentication and making sure that it's coming to a user through a secure channel, because it is triggering the download of executable code that would run on a phone.
So are we effectively downloading an app without going to the App Store via clicking an HTML on the web, Russell, or what exactly is going on technically?
We are downloading a very small app, okay, that will, and it's meant to be downloaded at the moment that you would use it. Not, I'm thinking about visiting this business. Let me go ahead and download the app so that I'm prepared for my visit to this business. I arrive there, I see a code for installing an app clip, for downloading an app clip and using it, and I immediately am brought to using that right then and there.
Huh. Interesting. So Kim, what are some of the use cases that you've seen that really make sense with that then and there transaction?
Yeah, I mean, the way that I see it in physical locations, I find everything that's location based, using Siri, for example, Siri suggestions is very interesting to me. Looking at concerts, you pull up to the concert venue, and you can use an app clip to scan your way into the event, any sports events, hotel check-ins. So kind of those type of things that are usually probably now also in a COVID world, they need to go more and more no touch, so to speak. So it could help in a lot of not just transactional, but also anything check-in related, airport parking. So I see a lot of use cases for it actually, and I hope they expand further on the location targeting. And the way I won't speak to how Russell would phrase it, but to me, it's like an elevated version of a very successful push. When push works well with location services, I find it to be very useful. This is one step up from that. That's how I see it.
Lee, anything to add to that?
Yeah, the finer point of is it like downloading an app? It's interesting because from the machine's perspective, yes. From the user's perspective, no. From the user's perspective, it's a very particular piece of functionality that they're gaining access to inside of a space. And that's going to be really, really important when thinking about how to execute these. The idea is not to put a thing on somebody's device that they're going to, have to interact with long term. The idea is to provide a piece of targeted functionality very, very quickly. So again, it's one of those finer distinctions between the way the machine views it and the way the user views it.
Totally get that. So in my mind, when I first heard about app clips, I was thinking about a totally new audience, one we hadn't reached before. But I think there are many marketers out there who might be concerned about cannibalization or utilizing app clips because someone feels like, maybe I don't need to download the app. I can just use the app clip. Have you thought through some of that?
So one of the earliest conversations that I had, and this view may be popular, unpopular, wrong, crazy, but I don't think it's wrong or crazy. This is one of those instances where brands need to understand that it's not necessarily always valuable to be able to have a permanent presence on somebody's device. Sometimes you get the best. Sometimes providing the user experience that is most effortless, seamless, and unobtrusive is the path towards greater loyalty and rewards in the long term. You may not be able to measure it. You may not be able to gather, robust analytics against it. You may not be able to gather data that you can sell to Facebook or whatever, but you're providing people with a good experience, and often that's the key to engendering brand loyalty.
And Russell, what can we do with an app clip? Because I'm sure we can do some things, we just can't do all the things we do with a traditional application.
You can do so much. An app clip is reduced, it is limited to a very small size, of course, right? Because you're going to be downloading it in the wild, so to speak, not in the comfort of your home with a high bandwidth network, for example. But we can take advantage of virtually any functionality on the phone, so long as it doesn't require permissions. Okay, so an app clip can't access
no
the
camera.
contacts. No camera, no contacts. Right?
Location?
But so you do get location information without even asking for the user for it, to confirm that the app clip was launched from where you think that they launched it. Okay, because this is all about. That is not entirely clear to me, but I would say that you're not going to be tracking their location in the background, but where it matters to the user and where you care about how they're using that app clip, you're going to have that location information available, because those app clip codes can have location information on them. And you're using the location information to say, oh, yes, they are at the restaurant on 95th and Western, right? They are where we think they are. So we know that we're presenting the correct menu for that particular venue.
Russell, you've opened a can of worms here. I'm sure there are many brands out there that are thinking, what do I have to change about my current technology stack? Or I have 65,000 different menus. Which one do I serve the user here? How are we helping them think through some of those challenges when it comes to orchestrating a strong app clip experience?
Well, the good thing is most of the time, if they are in a position where they're considering a strong app experience, they've already got everything that they need. There may be a bit of, as you say, orchestration, piping information from one place to another in a slightly more subtle way, but they've already got all of the things they need. We just need to help them determine what are the absolute things that we need in this moment for this user at this place.
Got it. That's really helpful. So Kim, I have a question for you. We're sitting across the table from a brand's CEO and the executive team. What would you tell them about app clips and why they should be thinking about it for their brand?
I feel like, in terms of strategy and in terms of a user experience, less friction is always a good thing. It's never going to be a bad thing. So if you could kind of make use of this feature that is not, it doesn't have a lot of development time behind it, of course, depending on how it's designed, but it's not super heavy on the development side. It is small. It is like a smaller version of the app that you have, and you can direct the user directly toward what you want them to do, toward a specific task. You're relieving them of so much friction. So the loyalty, same thing that Lee said before, the loyalty to the brand, doesn't matter what type of brand it is, which field, which industry, is very likely to be increased because you have now just made it so much easier for the user. So that would probably be one of the main things I would bring up. Less friction is always a good thing. This could also lead to the person actually ending up downloading your app.
Let's talk about that. Yeah. So what does that mean? How does one go from never heard about your brand digitally to engage with your brand digitally via an app clip to a dedicated and installed application user that you have access to, that you can communicate with, that you get additional information about?
Yeah, I think Kim just brought up the most critical part of the app clip experience, and it's something that Russell was alluding to earlier, where once this thing is on their device, it's downloaded, it exists. It is not perpetual, but it continues to be on the device for a set period of time. And users can refer to it. I think that iOS 14 is going to be including something called like a recent apps drawer or a section, and they'll be able to jump back to it and access that functionality again. And in a nod to the needs of brands, Apple is including multiple ways for users to download the experience while in the app clip or prior to using the app clip or once they've completed the flow that they set out to accomplish. One of the hardest parts about marketing an app is convincing people it is necessary to download it and it will be worth your while to put it on your device. This enables you to jump right past that question of value proposition. You give people the positive experience, give them access to the functionality that they want, and if they continue to use it and find value in it, they are more likely to install and remain a user of your app.
Yeah, it's the old adage, first one's free, right? So it's showing value to the user first before extracting value from that user necessarily.
Right. In this case, we've hidden the horse underneath the cart. So there, the cart is just there and you can have all the stuff in the cart and there's a little horse kind of underneath it. And then you go, I actually love this cart. And then you open it up and you go, oh, there was a horse there the whole time.
Oh, sneaky stuff, but also really practical and useful for a lot of different applications. I think this is all we have to cover today on app clips, but there's so much more coming. But before we leave, what about all those Google folks? Russell, is this just for iPhones? Are we just going to be talking to those Apple users?
So this specific technology is for Apple users, but for a couple of years now, Android has had slices available, which are ways to deliver a portion of an app experience to Android users. I think that now that we have both platforms engaging on this micro app level, it is a lot easier for an organization to decide to dedicate resources to designing and implementing one of these.
So you heard it here first. The future is much more fragmented, a lot more opportunities for the customer, making it easy to engage with any given brand, but means that it's not just enough to have a website and an app anymore. You have to have an app clip. You have to have a responsive web. You have to have deep links. The world is expanding. It's all good, but there are some changes on the horizon. I think that's all for today. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this week's episode of Bottle Rocket News on App Clips.